Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. Today, I'm joined by Johnathan Grzybowski. He's the CMO and co-founder over at Penji. Johnathan, how's it going today, man?
It is an absolute honor. Today is a very interesting point in time in our lives, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we're going to be talking about the phenomenal growth journey that you guys have been on at Penji. We're going to be talking about the ways that you guys have consistently been data-driven, even with some very simple tools that have been kind of the backbone of what you guys have done, a couple of pivots that you've been through and things like that. For a little bit of context, give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the Penji team are up to these days, who you guys serve, what you do for some context.
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my entire adult life. I started pretty much at 23, but it goes all the way back until 14. I had a couple of businesses. All of them necessarily were successful and got us to exactly where we are today, but they were never necessarily the definition of success that I've always dreamed of. Penji in particular is a on-demand graphic design service. We help agencies and small businesses with unlimited graphic design. Our customers go onto our platform, they submit as many requests as they want, and we deliver it back to them in under 48 hours. All while the most beneficial way of only spending anywhere between $400 to $800 a month. So it's literally like having an in-house graphic designer, and without necessarily having to hire anybody, without having the HR, without having the taxes and the health insurance and all other fun stuff. So you just go onto our website, you sign up, you get rocking, and then you get awesome graphic design.
I love it, man. I know that there are a lot of agencies and a lot of marketing teams and a lot of small businesses too that don't have the ability to bring on more graphic design help, but they have a lot of graphic design needs, especially if they're drinking the champagne that we talk about all the time and we drink a lot here. Is that you've got to put out a lot of content to be found these days. It's not quality or quantity. It's unfortunately both, and so they've got to find ways to scale the quality and the quantity at the same time. Well, speaking of scaling, man, what I want to do, Johnathan, before we get into some of the specific lessons from along your journey, if you could just tell us a little bit about, the story of Penji, where you guys started, where you are today, kind of some of the pivotal points in your growth story, and then we're going to unpack some of the lessons learned, man.
So we've been a 100% bootstrapped, cash flow positive company from the get-go. We've never asked for funding, and that's something that I'm incredibly proud of. And we've done that through a lot of failure and a lot of trial and error. So we were originally a digital marketing agency. I'm sure very similar to what you guys do, are content producers. And the businesses that we were working with were awesome, but it wasn't rewarding because we were delivering these beautiful websites to universities, but it only really helps the university and not the people that are within the school. And so we were trying to think of how can we actually help the people in the school? And by school, I mean the school of entrepreneurship and the school of small businesses throughout the United States and the world. And so we put out this service called Penji in order to do that. And when we originally launched Penji, we thought that it was going to be the perfect solution for startups, because in our area, in our region of the world, startups were incredibly in high demand and were blowing up because of that particular process of startups and scale and growth. And we were 100 million% wrong. We probably spent like 6 months trying to find a lot of startups, and we interviewed and we talked to, and we eventually got some of them on the platform. The problem was that their cash flow ran out and they didn't necessarily know how to structure a business properly. So we were the first people to go. And to this day, we still have startups, and they are actually not, we appreciate them, of course, but they are the customers that stay on Penji the shortest. And so throughout this journey, we tried to look at ways of, how can we increase our customers' monthly stay, and how can we legitimately help people within our graphic design service? And it probably took us, like I said, 6 months to truly figure it out. And we did all this by looking at data. So we took Google Docs, Google Sheets, our customer data. We've interviewed every single one of our customers. Even still to this day, we interview all of our customers and we ask them simple questions like, how did you find us? Where did you come from? If they say that, oh, you Googled us, well, what keyword did you Google? If you heard about from a friend, who was that friend, so we can give that person props and kudos, et cetera, et cetera. So that data aspect has always been a key foundational like growth strategy. And now that we have a ton of customers that we're all incredibly grateful for, now we're able to kind of piecemeal it all together, and it comes into like this beautiful puzzle. Before, it was just a lot of like data plots and points that we had no idea what the hell it all meant. But if we didn't set that core foundation of making it a point to focus on that data, then I can confidently say that we wouldn't be the company that we are today if it wasn't for that moment.
Yeah, I love it, man. What is a way that, I've heard from a lot of startup founders that once you start to scale, it's a little bit tougher to have the same sort of buy-in, the same sort of feeling of, man, these things are core values or the things about your culture in the early days to get them to be as part of just the heart of everyone on the team. And you mentioned it was just kind of ingrained in you guys that we interview customers. Like we always do this. We're always looking for feedback. What have you guys done to make that consistent? Is it just, hey, we've baked this into our onboarding process, or it's always a check-in at this certain time? Because I can imagine that in those 6 months of just like, oh, this doesn't seem to be right. It's something's not fitting. And so you keep at it. But once you kind of hit that next level, it's like, okay, it's very easy to sit back and be like, we know what we do. We know who we serve. So how have you guys kept that both mentally and just tactically kept that going of we've got to always hear from our customers?
I think it stems from the why aspect of it and the culture aspect of it. When we first started, we started our company by giving our service to nonprofits for $1 a month. And we've actually have continued that every year. We have a class of about 10 to 15 nonprofits that use our services for an entire year. And I say that because that was us giving back to our community has always been ingrained into our company culture. And so it's not weird in order for us to give back to our community during this time of crisis, right? I say that because if it's something that you just start without necessarily having the culture behind it, it's going to not be authentic and it's not going to be real. So our culture was built off of the curiosity. It was built off of understanding where other people's stories are. It's built off of just talking to people and communicating to people like human beings. How we've been able to maintain that is just because of the foundational elements of how we started. So because we're hiring people that are similar in the aspect that they believe in the things that we believe as a company culture, it's a little bit easier, and we don't necessarily have to retrain people to feel that way because we hired them for that purpose of aligning with our vision.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, man, because I've trained, managed, been a salesperson for a long time. So let's talk about, in the context of sales, specifically hiring and coaching. They always say, you can teach skill, you can't teach will. And I think that's the same sort of thing here. You can't just indoctrinate someone with culture. You need to find folks who have that innate alignment with your core values. And if curiosity is one of your core values and it's driven you to be able to ask good questions and be able to pivot in the right way based on what you've heard, then it makes sense to bake that into your hiring process, bake that into your recruiting process. Like, hey, we're looking for curiosity. I think that's a great lesson there, man. Talk a little bit about once you guys pivoted. You're not focused as much on startups. You're looking at a different target in the market. How that helped you guys both change your messaging and make it more targeted, as well as just make your sales reps more productive.
I would say when you give a sales rep, or when you give anybody on your team a task, if it is not thoroughly thought of and processed and detail oriented, then that person is never going to succeed. And for the most part, we were literally giving our team members documents where they had to essentially do it themselves. And as a co-founder and as a leader of the company, you can't do that. It's going to have a lot of time wasted and money wasted as well. So to this day, we still don't know the exacts, but we're definitely getting better at it. But we want to be able to give our people as much information that says, hi, we are looking for people who do this, that say these things on their website, that usually have about this number of people on LinkedIn within their company. And if you find those people, they are great prospects and do whatever it takes in order for you to get inside that company. That's kind of just like the overarching thing. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's just like the thought process that we have. And I don't know exactly, it probably took us close to 2 years in order to get that answer. But now with pinpoint accuracy, I could say very high probability that if you find this, and that you will at least get a response, possibly a meeting. And then possibly
absolutely.
a sale.
Yeah, I mean, here at Sweetfish, we've been through several of these pivots. We started in the early days as a content writing agency. And then, James realized, hey, we want to try and connect with folks in the nonprofit sector. I could start a podcast and interview those folks to be a guest. And we realized, well, that's a great way to connect with potential customers, but this sector, it's just not a good fit. They don't have budget. They don't see value in what we're offering there. And it's a very quick recap of that story. And then we pivoted into offering podcasting services. And we thought, well, sales leaders would love to have a podcast where their salespeople can connect with prospects by creating content with them. But then we realized, hey, sales leaders don't have budget for podcasting, marketers too, right? And then after that, then it became, okay, who in the marketing department is kind of our target persona? Is it the CMO? Is it director level? And we've kind of honed that. And now, we can say with confidence when we look at a website, when we look at what are they doing from a marketing perspective right now, what's the tone of their content, are they likely going to be a good fit for us? So I can see a lot of similarities in the way that we've pivoted our overall service as well as who we're targeting. And then it gets refined, but you have to keep that curiosity. You have to keep asking those questions and documenting those things. The other thing that you were telling me earlier, Johnathan, offline, was that you guys learned a lot about your target market and your buyer personas through cold email. A lot of people think like, hey, if I ratchet up cold email and my sales development efforts, then I might see some return on investment in leads and in revenue, but they tend to not think or maybe miss the fact that they're getting a lot of valuable feedback from the market in that process. Can you speak to that as how it helped you guys hone your messaging and hone in on the folks that were really going to be, best fit customers for you guys?
We spent a lot of money in the very beginning on advertising, and we looked at the advertising data, and then we started emailing those types of people within those interests. And then from that point on, we were like, well, why isn't this converting? So then what we did is we started just emailing as many people as possible in all different types of sectors. And then what we did, we didn't care about anything other than just email. We primarily used our locality, our region. And when we started receiving responses, we actually then did a little bit more research when people were doing meetings with us. And we said, okay, well, what does this person do? What is their audience size? How many likes do they have on Facebook? How many people do they have in their company? Who was the person that we spoke to? What was their job title? And then we wrote it down on a piece of paper or on a Google Sheet. And then we got the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting and turned into 100 plus meetings. And then we sorted everything through. We said, what are the commonalities? Okay, well, the marketing manager title is actually the number one thing. That's an outlier. That is the one thing that is common amongst every single one of these. What sector are they in? Is it IT? Is it marketing agencies, et cetera?
Right.
And then once we narrowed that down, then we created the profile. Now it's with pinpoint accuracy, I could say find the X of this type of company within this region, and we will not move on to other regions until we have social proof. But we're very slow in the aspect that we're going to start local, get as many customers as we can local, become experts in our local area, and then find a way to go into other cities. But only the regions, only people that know us. We're still a global company. We have thousands of customers, but we really focus our sales efforts from a email perspective, like in a local aspect. Advertising does the best, and we also have great SEO. So our SEO is a game changer as a content specialist yourself. If you think SEO is dead, you're 100% wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we've been actually leaning into our SEO strategy lately as the discoverability of podcasts are going through some changes,
Hmm.
and how you can go about planning your podcast content for an accompanying blog post that is reverse engineered with SEO in mind. The thing that we keep saying is like, people are like, well, it's just constantly changing, and with every algorithm update, who wins? The folks that are delivering the best content that match the search intent. First, it was keyword stuffing, and then all these black hat tricks, and now backlinks have less of an effect. And it's really about, if you can find what people are searching for and create content that answers that question better than what's on the first page of Google right now, you're going to win. So you are spot on, man. We are like-minded right there.
One of the most important things is good content, as you mentioned before.
Mhm.
So good content is really important. And I think a lot of people think that they're creating good content, but they're really not. And I would say this, that if you are the type of person like me that likes to go on the internet and read really detailed guides, and like, why wouldn't you give that person respect by giving an email or whatever it may be? To us, we didn't realize that what good content was probably until too late. And now we're going back of our past efforts and making everything better. And then all the new stuff that we produce is really good too. So I think, like, you should have an emphasis on content, yes, but if it's not legitimately helping people and you're just producing content to make yourself feel good or look good, it should, from my perspective, every piece of content should have a derivative, or it should result to a sale. And if you're not writing something in your head to think of to have the end result be a sale, then stop writing it now. Just stop what you're doing and go back to doing something else, because you need to convert whatever piece of content it is that you're doing, the same way that you're converting your podcast. If this podcast isn't converting, then stop doing the podcast. Simple as that.
Yeah, and I would say it's not always as simple as that initial conversion, because the
Absolutely.
way that you drive people towards conversion is, like you said, is this something that if I were sitting here, I would actually want to read, right? Like, so here's an example. Lots of work from home and remote tips and that sort of stuff blowing up on LinkedIn and everywhere right now, right? I wrote a simple post on LinkedIn that was just like, hey, when I'm on Zoom, I switch it to gallery view. I take it off of full screen and I arrange it to where the other person is right below my webcam so I can make better eye contact. Like, that seems like super simple. It is very in the weeds, but I had so many people like commenting and sharing and like, this is a great tip, because I know that whether you're hopping on Zoom calls to do podcasts or sales calls or just internal calls, it's something that's happening right now, and it's actually useful and it's actually valuable. And if you have that sort of empathy and that value mindset in your content, then it will convert. It will. Now, it's got to be tangential to your product or to the community that you serve. Like, I could write articles all day about underwater basket weaving, right? But that's not going to lead to adding value to marketers. But it is something right now that's in the world and being on Zoom calls all the time. So I would say empathy drives the value of your content. And when you have that, you will drive conversions, man. I love it, Johnathan. Awesome.
Amen.
Well, man, this has been a great conversation. If anybody has been intrigued by your story, would like to ask you some follow-up questions, or maybe they want to learn more about Penji, get in touch with you guys, or just follow along with some of your amazing content, what's the best way for them to reach out or stay connected with you guys?
Yeah, it's penji.co, penji.co. If you like everything that I said, if you feel as if that you're in need of a graphic design resource like ours, if you want to scale your graphic design team, penji.co.
Awesome, man. Johnathan, thank you for joining me on the show today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks, man.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. If you're a regular listener of B2B Growth, you know that I'm one of the co-hosts of this show, but you may not know that I also head up the sales team here at Sweetfish. So for those of you in sales or sales ops, I wanted to take a second to share something that's made us insanely more efficient lately. Our team has been using LeadIQ for the past few months, and what used to take us 4 hours gathering contact data now takes us only 1. We're 75% more efficient. We're able to move faster with outbound prospecting, and organizing our campaigns is so much easier than before. I'd highly suggest you guys check out LeadIQ as well. You can check them out at leadiq.com. That's LEADIQ.com.